Hello and welcome. I'm Sarah from Handmade After Dark. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Australia, and welcome to my Thursday Tech series. So the Thursday Tech series is a technique-based series. So each video I will take you through a different technique, including a completed project as well, and potentially one or two other samples using that technique. Also, the Wednesday following the video, in my email newsletter, I will send out a project recipe card for the project made in the video. So that will include a list of all the products used, some hints and tips, the measurements for the project as well, and a link to the video so you can find it easily. So if you're not already on my email list, if you head to my blog, which is handmadeafterdark.com.au, and sign up to my newsletter, then you'll receive those recipe cards. And also I do the same with my Fun Fold Friday series, so you'll get those recipe cards as well if you sign up to my email list. Please also don't forget to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. It really helps me out and I do appreciate it. So thank you if you for those who have subscribed. And if you haven't, if you could, that would be awesome. All right, on to this video's technique, which is the Emboss Resist technique. So I'll just switch my camera around. So this is the project we're going to make. So Emboss Resist, if you've never seen it before, it's an old technique, it's been around for quite a while. Basically it involves embossing an image with clear embossing powder on white cardstock and then adding ink over the top. You can do a single color or you can do multiple colors, which is what I've done here. If you are going with a blend of colors, just make sure you pick colors that blend well together and don't just turn into brown when you mix them. So for this one, I'm using Night of Navy, Pretty Peacock, and Blackberry Bliss. And so these colors do blend nicely together. So that's what we're going with. So for this particular project, I'm using the Snowy Delights stamp set. There is also a set of dies that go with this and also some masks. So you can do some ink blending with the masks as well with that. But I'm just using the stamp set for this one. And I'm going to start with a piece of basic white that is, I'm going with one that's bigger than what I need for the final design, so I can trim it down once I've finished. Sometimes when you're ink blending you can get darker edges than you want, so you can trim those off, or if they're a little sort of sections around the edge that don't look quite as nice as you'd like, you can trim those off. Now, one thing that can be tricky with this is you're embossing using the Versamark. So it's, if you're stamping more than once, it can be quite difficult to see where you've stamped. So sometimes it can be helpful to stamp, add the embossing powder. Don't heat set it, but just add the embossing powder and then repeat the process until you've got your cardstock covered. But we'll see how we go. The first thing we want to do is grab the embossing buddy, which comes as part of the embossing toolkit, which also includes a tray like this, a brush. It's not this one, but it's similar sort of size, and a pair of tweezers. So we want to make sure that we have well and truly covered this, and this is another reason why it can be useful to go bigger than you want, because it can be difficult to not get your fingerprints on the cardstock, and if you've got any oils or anything on your hands or any dirt, it can pick up when you add the Versamark. So that should be good. Now, this is quite a large stamp, and I I created a little sort of template using just some old grid paper, just so I could see sort of roughly where I wanted. But when I did my sample, I got most of it in, but it was really hard to see what I was doing, so I was just hoping for the best, and then went back and added some of the extras. So we'll see how we go. Got my Versamark, which I did re-ink the other day, so hopefully this is good. We want to make sure it's well and truly inked up. So I'm just going to get that all over. And then I'm going to bring this down. Actually need, that's right, because we'll be going off, that piece is not quite big enough. And this is quite, I'm need to use the biggest block for this. So I'm going to bring this in most of the way. You need to press down quite firmly with this one because it's a larger image. It can be difficult. Just make sure you're not sliding the paper around underneath. So give that a good press. And where's my other little stamp? There it is. All right. And just trying to avoid touching the cardstock too much, which is quite difficult to do. So I've got a rough idea of where that is, but not 100% sure. So I am kind of just hoping for the best a bit here, and we will see how it looks. And then I'm going to add one more large snowflake in the bottom corner. Cannot see where I have and haven't stamped, so we are just hoping for the best here. All right, just trying to get that off without touching the sides too much, and I haven't got a lot of space here, so I'm trying to keep everything contained. All right, I've got some clear embossing powder here, so let's see how we go. Just going to try and hold the sides, cover that. It's a bit trickier with this one because it is a large piece, but it can be done. It can be done. Let's flip this around. And thankfully, because the Versamark, because of the type of ink it is, it takes longer to dry, which means you've got a bit more time to try and get your embossing powder on. I think I had some over here, but the other option, if you're using the tray, you can just chuck your piece down in the tray and just cover. Now I think it's actually looking pretty good. I think I've got another spot where I want to add a bit more. So we'll tap that off. And I don't know how well you can see on camera, but it's generally looking pretty good. I just want to try and add something, probably just something in around there, and I think I might just try and get a bit more embossing powder on there. That's looking pretty good, but maybe it is tough with the clear because you can't particularly the clear on white, because you can't see it all that well. But anything we miss, we just cover with something else. So let's bring in a little bit more over here. So I want, and excuse my head in the camera, just trying to get it in. And I'm still kind of hoping for the best a bit, but that should be enough. I would have liked a bit more in the middle, but I think I'm going to be pushing it to try and get anything in. Maybe I can. Let's try it. I may regret this, but we'll see. We will see. All right, let's bring this back in. Cover that with more embossing powder. Let's see how we go. That's actually not too bad, I think. Difficult to be 100% sure, but I think that is looking pretty good. All right, let's go with that and we'll see how we go. All right. Now, little tip with heat embossing, if you get a clipboard or something similar, make sure it's not plastic, and add some foil to it. It helps, and I'm not going to clip this one on just because I've got embossing all around the edges, but it helps avoid the cardstock from warping too much, because when you heat it, the foil then heats up and heats the cardstock from the bottom as well. So let's heat this, and this can be tricky to see when it's melted, but basically you are looking for shiny. So let's see how we go. Let's have a look. Now, one tip with this, you need to be really careful with this technique that you don't overheat. So you may need to sort of stop and start a bit to make sure that you've got shiny everywhere. And I do have a few spots I've missed, but you do want to, actually got quite a few, but you need to be really careful not to overheat. And I'll show you what happens when you overheat at the end. But let's add a little more heat to this. Let's see how that's looking, because unfortunately it's very difficult to know if you've overheated until the end. I've still got a few more spots that need a bit more heat, so let's keep going. Let's see how that's looking. We're getting there. It's better to go slowly with this one and stop and start than to overheat. And I've still need to finish. Needs a little bit more there, a bit up there, and a bit down there, and a bit there. Alrighty, how close are we? Getting there. Oh, I have missed a bit in the corner there, so we'll fix that up, and then I think it's looking pretty good. Alright, a bit more down here, possibly a touch up there. Okay, now let's see. It's looking pretty good. I'm hoping that it's okay. Oh, I do have a bit there. It can be really difficult to see, so you just take your time. Alrighty, and don't forget we've made this bigger than we need, so if there's bits around the edges that don't end up looking all that great, we can trim those off, and you can always cover with other embellishments, because I'm not sure if this bit in here is properly, it's possibly not had enough embossing powder. But if that's the case, that's fine, because then I can, show you what happens when you don't have enough. But let's put that to the side, and I'm going to bring in, where was the one I was using? I can't remember. Let's go with this one. All right, so now we're going to add the ink. So I've got my blending brushes. I've got Night of Navy, Pretty Peacock, and Blackberry Bliss. start with some of the Night of Navy and just try and hold it down as you go. You will probably end up with inky fingers, but that's okay. And it's just random blending, just wherever you want the different colors. And these particular colors do blend in to each other really nicely, so you can go over the top of one color with another and it looks really nice. So think carefully about the colors that you are using before you start. So we're just going to completely cover the cardstock. Just remember to start light and build up as you go, because you can always add more, but you can't take it away. So just be careful you don't go too heavy straight away. You want to be able to add more and blend in. And then come up with some of the Blackberry Bliss. And add a bit more Night of Navy. Going to put some over the Blackberry Bliss. And over some of the Pretty Peacock. Just keep going and building up the colors, blending them in until you're happy. And I think we need a bit of Night of Navy over here. Just a little. And some more Blackberry Bliss. One of the nice things with this technique is that every card is going to look slightly different, because the ink blending, even if you're using the same colors, it's always going to look a little bit different each time. So each card is going to be unique, much like a snowflake. Alrighty, let's see. A bit of Night of Navy, I think. Just a little around the edge. All right, and once you're happy, we will put the lids back on. Then you just need to grab either, say, a tissue, piece of paper towel, something like that. I've just got a dried out baby wipe, and then you're going to wipe off the excess ink. So where you've embossed, it essentially resists the ink, so when you wipe it off, you reveal the white from the cardstock underneath. So you can see all the ink that's coming off. So just wipe all over the embossed areas. Get all the ink off, so you've got the white embossed areas showing through. Alrighty, now what you want to do from here is take a look at the finished product and work out if there are any areas that you either want to try and remove or hide. So if I don't know how well you can see that, but you can see that spot there. It didn't, there obviously wasn't enough Versamark and therefore not enough embossing powder on there, so that I either want to cover or cut off. It's, other than that, it's actually not too bad. It's better than I thought, to be honest. So from the side, so I need to cut from both sides. So I'll cut some of that off, and then you can probably see it's a little darker, noticeably darker along that top edge from the blending brushes, so I might trim that off. Now I've got my sentiment that I stamped. Once I find it, I had it over here and now I can't find it. Had it all ready to go. It was stamped, it's cut. Where did it go? I've got my spares, but I need my finished sentiment, and it has disappeared on me, which is very helpful. A little bit cramped around here. Let's see if I can find it. Nope, not looking like it. That's all right. We will cut and create another one. That's fine. All right, so for the sentiment, and I'll probably find it as soon as I create a new one, I am just going with, I went with a bit narrower than that. So just want strip. Now I did angled cuts, which is why I did this ahead of time, because I am terrible at getting these looking even vaguely even. I'm going to do it before I start. So you just want to, I tend to cut up the middle and then try, depending on how sort of angled you want it, you just want to try and get even. That looks decent. Not perfect, but good enough, I think. Good enough, but I'm going to try and straighten it up a bit. Anyway, that'll do. All right. Now, before I stamp, I want to work out if there's an area that I want to cover. And it will end up being shorter than this. I'll cut that section off. So I'm trimming this down. I'm going to add a thin border. So I want this down to 9.7. So that will take care of that a little bit. And then I want to take the top. Although, oh no, that's fine. So 14.1, but I might just take a tiny bit off this end and a tiny bit off this end. Alrighty, so that's the final piece, and then just need to have a look and see if there's anything that we desperately want to cover up, but I think it's actually looking pretty good. So we might, sentiment won't go all the way across, but yeah, we'll see. Let's stamp it. So I'm using Night of Navy for the sentiment, and I'm going to go towards the edge where I did the angled cup because I want to trim it down, but not from that end. So let's bring that in. We don't want it too long, so let's take it off back there. Alright, so if we go, could go about there, or we could go on that side. I can't decide. Let's go on this side. Just sort of, we can bring it up a little bit higher than the other one. All right, that's fine. Let's go with that. So I am using just a basic white base, and for this one I'm using Blackberry Bliss. I used Night of Navy for the sample card. This one will go Blackberry Bliss. That down, and then just stick that on the front. Just remember which way I decided it was going. This way, I think. Okay, and then let's get some dimensionals for the sentiment. once I find them, there. My mini ones are hiding from me. There they are. New sheet. Oops. Couple more. Alrighty, and let's get all those backings off. Oops, last one. That's all of them. So I'm just going to line that up with the edge of that one, and then I'm going to add, these are the faceted snowflakes, so add some of these silver ones. So we've got a couple of big ones, and then we need one more of the lilies. Let's go there. There we go. And just fold that. So there we go. That is the Emboss Resist technique. And I did, using a retired set, similar sort of design. I did that one. This was the Frozen Edges stamp set, so it's one from last year. So that was another sample I made. Now, if you overheat the embossing powder, what can happen? Oh, that's the other thing we can do. I don't know how well you can see, if you can see the sparkle on this, but we will do that in a sec. So, actually, let me zoom in. So, you can see with this one, parts of it you can see fine, but other parts it kind of blends in. You can't really see, the white doesn't pop. And basically what happens, so particularly say along the M there, and there's quite a few different parts, and I've got a second one that's actually, don't know which one is better in terms of what happens when you can see on that curve of the C, and on a lot of the M and the A. And now this is a thin, the text is quite thin, so it doesn't pop as much, but if you look, if you can see closely at these ones, it's not white, it's essentially whatever color the ink is. And what happens when you overheat is that the embossing powder kind of absorbs into the cardstock. It's probably the best way to describe it. And so then it means that when you add the ink over the top, it doesn't resist. Now, it's very difficult to know if you've overheated until it's too late. So that is one reason why you just, with this technique, go slowly. You may need to stop and start quite a few times, but you don't want to overdo it to make sure everything's done in one hit. Go slowly, take your time, and you should be okay. Now, and I don't know how well you can see the sparkle on that. I'm not sure how well it's going to show up on the camera, but to do that, all we need to do is grab your wink of Stella and your bone folder or something similar, and we're just going to tap. So again, I'm not sure how well you will be able to see this on camera, but if you give it a try, you will see that the you get little flecks of glitter all over your card, which looks really, really nice. And seeing as we're here, let's do my other sample, because I haven't done that one. So you can go as much or as little as you like, depending on how much shimmer you like. It gives a really nice effect to the cards. I really, really like this effect. Alright, that will do for now. Alrighty, so there we have it. That is the Emboss Resist technique. I'll just change my camera back. There we go. Alright, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the project. I hope you give it a go. I would love to see what you come up with. Remember all the details, links to my online store, to my email, to my blog, to sign up to my email list, are in the description, and make sure you're on my email list so that you get the project recipe cards the week following the video, and also get the same for the Fun Fold Friday projects. And don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out. Alright, thank you so much for joining me. Until next time, happy crafting. Bye.